Good morning. From Psalm 133, with a little microphone. How rare it is, how lovely, this fellowship of those who meet together. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everyone. Here in the sanctuary, or those of you at home, near or far, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Don Close, and I'll be your worship associate today. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you've come. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to better welcome and care for one another. So whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. As we begin, we want to acknowledge that this church occupies land in Huichin, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. We understand that we continue to benefit from the seizure and occupation of this land, and we acknowledge and embrace our responsibility to take restorative action. We affirm that this is deeply felt and commit our congregation to be in right relationship with Indigenous communities, aligning in solidarity, supporting Indigenous projects, and caring properly for the land. This morning, we would like to welcome to our chancel our guest minister, Reverend Emily Webb, who will be speaking to us on Truth All Around Us. Emily has a Master's of Divinity degree from the Star King School for the Ministry and a BA in Sociology and Anthropology from Lewis and Clark College. Her professional experience is as a hospice chaplain, a community organizer, and as an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister. Her professional interests include the intersection of spiritual and religious traditions and Western medical practice, with a focus on addressing moral injury among healthcare and mental health care providers. In 2021, she completed a graduate certificate in psychedelic-assisted therapies and research from the California Institute of Integral Studies. Her professional practice supports clergy, healers, and healthcare professionals to access inner resources for sustaining themselves and to live more authentically. We're so glad to have you with us this morning, Emily. So let us now prepare for our space now for lighting the chalice flame. If you're online, you might get a candle and a way to light it so you can join in at home. Today, Jason Russell will light the chalice and our candles. Jason is one of our worship associates and also serves on the endowment committee. Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words by Christine Robinson. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. We also pause to remind ourselves of some of the foundations of resilience. With Jason, we light a candle of courage, a candle of acts of service, a candle of fellowship, and a candle of hope. May we find and cultivate these foundations of resilience in ourselves and one another. Thank you, Jason. Now, please join us in singing our opening song, For Earth Forever Turning. The words will be on the screen. Please join with me in saying our covenant. Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
story I'm going to tell comes from the Chinese folklore tradition. It's called The Empty Pot. One time, many, many years ago, there was a great kingdom. And in this kingdom, there was a little boy named Ping. Ping loved flowers. Who loves flowers? A few flowers. I love flowers, too. And Ping loved to look at flowers and smell flowers, and he learned from a very young age how to grow flowers. And he was incredibly good at it. He was so skilled. And there was also an emperor. The emperor, guess what? The emperor loved flowers too. He was also getting very, very old. And it was time to find a new emperor, his successor. And so he organized an event. And he said, I invite all the children from all over the lands to come to me, and each one will receive a seed. And then, next spring, bring your flowers to me. Bring what has grown from the seed, and I will choose the next emperor. This was so exciting. So there was a huge parade, and all the children came, dressed in their finest, before the emperor, and he gave each one a seed. And they returned home, and Ping was so excited. He planted his seed in a beautiful pot. He watered it. He gave it the best fertilizer and soil and attention and love, and nothing grew. And Ping waited, and he tended, and he waited, and he watched, and nothing grew. And the other children in his village seemed to be growing these beautiful flowers from their seeds. And Ping was so frustrated and so sad and so confused. And the time came, it was spring. And yet still, Ping had an empty pot with no flower. His father said to him, Ping, you have done your best. Your best is good enough to bring to the emperor. And so Ping went, holding his empty pot, parading with all the children in front of the emperor, who had big, beautiful flowers in their pots. The emperor was watching and waiting, carefully observing each child and each flower, and frowning, looking very distressed, until he saw Ping and his empty pot. And then he smiled. And he said, come before me. And Ping came before the emperor, and the emperor said, what have you done? And Ping, tearful, said, I planted the seed you gave me. I watered it, I tended it, and nothing grew, but I did my best. And that is what I brought to you today. The emperor said to the crowd of people, you see before you the next emperor. For all the seeds that I gave were cooked. Not a single one would grow. And it is this child who spoke the truth, who came before with the seed that I gave him, who will be your next emperor. And that is the story of Ping and the empty pot.
This is not a church. This is what the Sonoma County zoning enforcement officer said to me when he visited us at the church's Freestone retreat. This was last summer. We, UUCB, had been issued a cease and desist order to shut down the children's summer camp program that we had allowed to operate on the Freestone grounds. The zoning officer, Mike, had come to on our deadline date to make sure we had complied with the order. We did. You have heard about Freestone recently, I hope. Reverend Michelle is orchestrating an extended exploration to help our congregation come to an informed decision on the future of the Freestone retreat. Whether UUCB's century-long country retreat will open a new chapter of rejuvenation, or alternatively, close the doors. The retreat's first home was in Inverness from about 1920. For the last 50 years, it has resided at its current location near Sebastopol. It is Reverend Michelle's gift as our interim minister to bring our church community to a good faith resolution of this long-standing controversy. A gift in the sense of offering us a pathway for our community to reach a decision based on dialogue and good faith listening. If we can accomplish this, we will not encumber our new minister with an unresolved, impassioned issue when she or he joins us in about a year. So let me return to the journey of my memories and ideas. Following the zoning officer's words, I had wanted to say, well, actually, Freestone is a church. But it got me wondering, what is a church? Why isn't the Freestone Retreat a church? Is it because the county has zoned the parcel of land on which it is situated as for only residential and agricultural use? That just didn't answer the question. So I ask, what makes a church a church? What makes our Kensington church a church? How is a church different from, say, a school or a concert hall, a theater, a resort, or a conference center? Some will say that a church should not be confused with the building or the parcel of land on which it is situated. It is rather a community of people brought and held together by commitments to shared values, and perhaps by stories about the nature of ultimate realities. We brushed with this proposition in the recent history of our own church, when many of us feared that we could not afford to remain here on our Kensington campus, but would need to sell the property and move to a more sustainable location. The refrain was, our church is not a building or a particular geographical location, but a beloved community of worship and service. That perspective is persuasive, isn't it? Yet I think it misses something essential. It misses what I experience when I enter our church spaces on the Kensington Hilltop. It's different from what I feel when I enter a workplace or a movie theater, an office building, or a restaurant. It is the experience of entering a sacred space. A sacred space. But what does that mean? What is a sacred space, and what makes it sacred? My response to this question perhaps best explains why I'm a Unitarian Universalist. I don't look for someone to tell me the answer. I explore my own experience, my own journey. Back in 1960, when I was 19, I felt I was entering a holy and sacred space when I entered the First Unitarian Church of Berkeley as it was called then. The church was on the northeast corner of Bancroft and Dana, down the block from Telegraph. It was a beautiful, rustic brown-shingled Maybeck building held by tall redwood trees and flowering wisteria, climbing a huge amber glass circular window on its west side. My parents brought me to this church when I was in the 8th grade, and I participated in the youth group activities through high school. I attended weekly services and pondered the meaning of Dr. J. Raymond Cope's provocative sermons. I adopted him as a kind of model or mentor. Occasionally I would talk with him and unburden my teenage torments and quandaries. He listened with the same patient acceptance and encouragement of my searching that he conveyed in his weekly sermons, to probe difficult questions of life's meaning and society's dilemmas that he himself struggled with. So what, you may still ask, made this church a holy, sacred place for me? I think it was the confluence of a number of things, but all tied to the coming together on a regular basis, Sunday mornings and other times, gatherings of people sharing a quest and appreciation for what I'll call first things. What do I mean by first things? High beauty, expressed Sunday mornings with Bach organ preludes and chamber ensembles of cello and soprano, or by poetry and verse. Reverence for integrity of conscience. Determined pursuit of fairness, justice, and compassion in human affairs. And painful honesty in the search for truth and testing of ideas. This group of people gathered and formed a fellowship in celebration of these first things. This was bedrock. But the gathering was not yet complete. It needed cohesion and continuity provided by the lay leaders and the minister, and also a place within but also apart from the larger comings and goings of society, a quiet place where all could hold moments of dialogue and moments of quiet together, a safe place, what we call a sanctuary. There on the corner of Bancroft and Dana was my sanctuary, my first church. In 1961, the university forced the First Unitarian Church of Berkeley to move, the university asserting its ownership of the land. The church building morphed into becoming a simple structure as the church was forced to move away. And the building still stands there 60 years later, but no longer a sanctuary, except in the memories fading over time. That was when Dr. Cope and our beloved community moved to the Kensington Hilltop to establish, in time, a new sanctuary. So back to my question, what is a church? It's an ongoing gathering of seekers and celebrants of first things who, in mutual recognition and regard, make and hold together a place where they can be together, a sanctuary. When we enter a sanctuary, that physical space reminds us of and takes us to first things. And back to Freestone and the zoning officer's declaration, this is not a church. What he did not know is that for many years, it was indeed a sanctuary for those Freestone UU pioneers who created it with their gifts of time, labor, and money. They gathered there often, joined by many other church members, seeking and celebrating first things in various activities: board retreats, writing conferences, men's groups, weddings, memorials, all church picnics, youth group overnights, meditation retreats, family reunions, or simple communion with the quiet countryside or the starry night sky. For those who built it or carry the memories of its founders and history, it is still a sanctuary. For UUs today, and for generations still to be born, or who have not yet discovered that they're UUs, it could become a sanctuary again. The choice is ours, and it is now upon us. We as a whole congregation need to become fully informed about the various issues involved, examine our values, participate in dialogue, and join together in a good faith decision, becoming more unified as a beloved community.
Is it on? Oh, now it's on. Well, I'm glad to hear that this is a church. It's a church of many faiths and many different spiritual paths. So because it's a church, I'm allowed to tell you that this song comes from the Buddhist tradition. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, thanks. Okay, so this comes from the Buddhist idea as expressed by Thich Nhat Hanh, that if we're peaceful in ourselves, it allows us to understand better and to feel compassion, and that's closely related to love. Where there is peace deep in my heart, where there is peace, I'll find love. Whenever there is peace deep in my heart, where there is peace, I'll find love. Where there is peace deep in my heart, where there is peace, I'll find love. Whenever there is peace deep in my heart, where there is peace, I'll find love. Where there is peace deep in our hearts, where there is peace, we'll find love. Whenever there is peace deep in our hearts, where there is peace, we'll find love. Where there is peace deep in my hearts, where there is peace, we'll find love. Whenever there is peace deep in my hearts, peace, we'll find love. Where there is peace deep in the earth, we'll find love. Whenever there is peace deep in the earth, where there is peace, we'll find love. Where there is peace deep in the earth, where there is peace, we'll find love. Whenever there is peace deep in the earth, where there is peace, we'll find love.
We now enter the time in our service that we make for our hearts and our spirits. our cares and concerns for one another. We lift up and hold the joys and sorrows, concerns and challenges that we each may be facing. During our time of silence this morning, I invite you to share any joys or sorrows, significant milestones of your own aloud. I invite us to hold these cares in compassionate embrace of this loving community. Spirit of life and love, that greater circle in which we all spin. This morning, I offer a prayer for all those things unfurling, for new flowers, for new life, for an old idea taken and shaken and made new, for a spirit which makes all things new, as an ancient scripture tells us, for that which is between, not yet, still in process, like all of us. I offer a prayer. I offer a moment to rest in that forming edge and allow what is not yet to have space. May we create space within, around, and for one another to be new again in 1,000 ways. May it be so.
Rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
How about now? You can hear me now? Wonderful. If you can't hear me at any point, just kind of like flail wildly, then I'll know. So, has anyone been on an airplane recently? A few people. I haven't been on an airplane in a while, but whenever I do, there's inevitably this short conversation that happens with the person sitting next to me. And usually it's about something in the book I'm reading or the bag of peanuts to share. And it always includes this question, what do you do? And in this moment, I really wish I could give a very simple answer. Teacher, doctor, I'm in computers. Unitarian Universalist minister generally creates more questions. So there's this moment on the airplane when I'm sitting next to a complete stranger when I am tempted to just make something up. I could say, I'm a sculptor. I'm a firefighter. I am the Dalai Lama's French interpreter. The likelihood that I'll ever talk to this person again seems so small, and yet it would be to tell a lie. Maybe a very small lie, but something that really isn't true. And I wonder, would it matter? Would anyone really be harmed? I know of no commandment more direct than thou shalt not lie from Hebrew and Christian scripture, and none perhaps more complex in its application. The commandment does not say, thou shalt not lie, except for when running for office, or thou shalt not lie, except about someone's home decor. In many situations, the truth is not clear. The lines can get blurry, particularly in this age. And what's the difference, really, between being polite, being honest, having some social grace, being terribly blunt, advertising? The idea that the truth is complicated is not new. And yet, it is a choice we are constantly facing. And it's not an easy choice. There are many moments more complicated than what to tell a stranger on an airplane, what to tell your spouse, your employer, your children, how much of the truth is really okay to share. It's a question we wrestle with individually and collectively. A few years ago, Time magazine, during the Trump presidency, had a cover that said, "Is truth dead? Is truth dead?" We are living in an unprecedented political moment. The scale and magnitude of lying and misconception coming directly from major world leaders has been unprecedented. It demands our attention and our action. And I'm someone who thinks that perhaps, as the feminist movement articulated so well, the personal is political. And the small truths that we tell ourselves and others every day matter. Because there has to be something in which we stand and hold on to and call truth. I am clear that if we practice in our personal lives telling more truth, then we will be fiercer advocates for truth and accountability from our leadership. Adrienne Rich, scholar and poet, writes, "There is no the truth. A truth is not one thing or even a system. It is an increasing complexity. Think of a pattern of a carpet. When we look closely, or when we become the weavers, we learn the tiny multiple threads unseen in the overall pattern, the knots on the underside. Lies are usually an attempt to make something simpler for the liar. In lying to others, we often end up lying to ourselves. Or we use one piece of the past or present to screen out another. And thus, Rich says, we lose faith within our own lives. I'm not going to stand here and tell you this is easy. In fact, I'm mostly going to stand here and tell you about times that I've lied. One was not long ago, actually at a gathering of ministers, and we were at this beautiful retreat center, and there were no vending machines. And it was kind of a, California holistic place, really healthy cuisine, no sugar. And I found myself in the middle of the day, like, I need a chocolate bar. I need a Coca-Cola. I need something. So in the parking lot, with my keys in hand, ready to run into town to the convenience store, I ran into a senior minister in the district, and we smiled at one another, and they said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "To the post office." Not true. And in that moment, my own shame and judgment of myself got in the way of just being honest. And about something that isn't actually that important, right? I mean, would this minister have stared me down with an evil eye and run off to tell all his minister friends about my evil, moralless, sugar-craving lifestyle? I don't think so. In fact, he might have even said, "Oh, great, can you pick something up for me too?" So often, it is our own fear and discomfort that who we are or what we have to bring is not good enough, that I'll be seen as strange or less than, that causes me to trip up, to try to smooth things over, to make it look different than it actually is. Do you remember the last lie that you told? Even a small one. Think for a minute. What was the truth you were resisting? What fear was inside you? What faith had you lost in yourself or the people you were speaking with? Social scientists know how common lying is. One study found that people tell 2 to 3 lies every 10 minutes. Even a conservative estimate says that we lie at least once a day. We teach this to our children as well. Researchers note by the age of 3, most children know how to fib. I know my son did. And by 6, most lie a few times a day, often to their parents. Of course, experts believe children learn to lie by observing their caregivers do it. And they become practiced in the art of deception by imitating those around them. Even just responding to the question, "How are you?" can invite a lot of invitation to be untruthful. We are so well trained to say, "Fine, thank you, how are you?" Instead of just saying, "Honestly, I'm having a hard time right now." Each of us, as Pink did in the story of the empty pot, have something in our lives for which we have tended and cared and had high hopes about, which didn't turn out the way we planned. I think each of us often are standing before an emperor of our own making, feeling insufficient, afraid. And what would the world look like, I wonder, if each of us have a father who could look into our eyes and say, "You tried your best, and your best is good enough." I believe at the heart this is what our faith has to offer the world. Your best is good enough. I was watching a TV show recently called Love. It's on Netflix. I recommend it if you're looking to binge something. And it's a romantic comedy. It kind of bridges drama and comedy. And in it tells the story of two people, Gus and Mickey. And it's about their relationship. And it unfolds like very slowly, almost painfully slowly for the viewer. And Gus is trying to pretend like he doesn't like Mickey as much as he does. And Mickey is hiding her insecurities and problems from Gus. And at the end of the season, in this climactic moment, I'm giving you a bit of a spoiler here, I apologize. Mickey has caused a bunch of problems for Gus, and Gus is like outraged. And so Mickey says to him in this gas station parking lot, "Hey, Gus, I want to apologize. I haven't been honest with you. I'm an addict. I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a sex and love addict. I think I need to be alone for like a year, and maybe in like a year, if you still like me and want to, we could get a coffee." Not typical for Hollywood, but a lot more like real life. Thankfully, that's not the end for Gus and Mickey. It's a real beginning. Because the moment we start telling the truth, we start to respect and love ourselves and the people around us. And we need this from one another. Mickey, like so many struggling with addiction, found courage in an anonymous meeting. One of the places I think in our culture it's easier to tell the truth than others. I don't believe we can tell the truth alone. That part of the purpose of a church, of a religious community, is to hold one another through some hard, complicated truths. We are called to be honest, not because of a commandment written thousands of years ago, but because it is the way to connection with one another. It is really the only doorway to authentic relationship, love, and trust. In some ways, I wonder if it is not the bravest people who have the most love in their life, because they are those who allow themselves to be the most seen. M. Scott Peck, in his book on community building, writes that connection happens when one person speaks at a level of vulnerability that has not yet been spoken into a group. You can feel it in your gut, that moment when someone is open and honest about something real. Everyone sinks down and arrives. Perhaps you know this from long conversations with an old friend or a covenant group. We are here to share our truths with one another. There is no other real story. It's our purpose. It is our practice. It is our calling. It can be our joy as well. Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, African-American mystic and preacher, said, "What is the truth of who you are? What is the truth of who you are?" As Unitarian Universalists, I believe we have some experience with this question. My colleague, Elena Rose, is a transgender author and poet, and she is the one who introduced me to this phrase of astonishing integrity. She uses it to describe other transgendered people, knowing that to walk in the world with this truth, with this honesty in your body, and having the courage Share that truth with the world, with your lovers, with your friends, with your family. The astonishing integrity. I think of the children in Texas, the non-binary and transgender children in Texas who are holding up an astonishing integrity in this time. I believe our religion exists for them, to say, may you be the leaders of our time. May you walk us towards an astonishing integrity. When we tell the truth, we change the world. I do believe it is that simple. Little truths about our desires unleash the power of our passion. Little truths about our fears unleash our potential and power. The personal is political. The truth matters. In college, I remember interviewing for this job that I really wanted. And I sought a lot of advice from teachers and friends and professionals, and I even asked my mom for help. I know, big deal. And I said, Mom, what if they give me a question I can't answer? Like, what if I really don't know? What will I do? What should I say? My mom was like, you tell them you don't know, but you say it with confidence. Tell them you don't know, but say it with confidence. So on my next flight, when someone asks what I do, I might just say, well, I don't speak French and I don't work for the Dalai Lama. I am part of a faith community in which we are trying to tell the truth as we know it. Please, pass the peanuts. Adrienne Rich, to close. When a woman tells the truth, she is creating the possibility of more truth around her. When a woman tells the truth, she is creating the possibility of more truth around her. Truth all around her. Truth all around us. May it be so.
Thank you, Emily. At this point in our service, we invite you to make an offering. With our offering, each of us has the opportunity to recommit to making UCB a strong and vibrant community. For now, we are conducting the offering in the sanctuary without passing the plate. Instead, you can either give electronically, or you can take a donation envelope from the back of the pew in front of you and place it into the donation box near the by the fountain in the atrium. Each week, half of our plate offering is shared with a Good Neighbor organization recommended by our Social Justice Council. We are grateful that you continue to practice generosity with our good neighbors through these difficult times. The Good Neighbor for this July, for the month of July, is the Contra Costa Family Justice Center. They serve families affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and human trafficking. Their mission is to bring together our community to support the healing of family members who are survivors of family violence, and to integrate capable partners with a comprehensive service approach to renew individuals in our community from traumas of family violence. Offerings of any value are always received with gratitude. Thank you. Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. It's been good to be together today. And before we shift to our coffee hour, which today will be in person on the terrace, may I remind you to check out all the things that are available in our congregation by exploring our website, uucb.org. There you can find a link in News to This Week Ahead, our weekly email newsletter, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. Before we conclude, I have 4 announcements. First, we need volunteers to help us on Sunday mornings with greeting and checking in people as they arrive. Please see the link in This Week Ahead to sign up. It's fun and easy. Second, there will be an all-ages potluck on July 17th. Please contact our Director of Family Ministry, Heaven Walker, for more information. Third, There will be Freestone visit and picnic days twice a month throughout the summer. The next one is on July 23rd, Saturday after next. You'll have an opportunity to visit our Freestone retreat as part of our ongoing process for determining the future of the property. Contact David Wimmer for choosing dates, carpool information, and more details. And finally, fourth, Pastoral Care is available even while Reverend Michelle is on vacation. Reverends Jane Ramsey and Sue Madison are available for emergency pastoral care. Email them at pastoralcare@uucb.org. Now, please join in singing our closing song, When Your Heart is in a Holy Place. The words will be on the screen.
A challenge for coffee hour. Tell the truth. Good luck. As some wise ministers once told me, we are one body. We depend on each other more than we know. Amen. Blessed be.